Hello and welcome back to another video. For today's video, I'm going to be giving advice and tips for people going on a J1 this summer. As someone that went on a J1 last year, I definitely know the whole planning process can get so stressful, and there is a lot to it when it comes to picking your sponsor, finding accommodation, finding a job. There's just so much that goes into a J1, so I thought it would be a good idea to give just do a whole video of giving people advice and just going through the whole process. I know if I had a video to watch like this last year, it would have helped me so much. I have my Mac over here for notes, so if you see me looking over here, that's why. So first of all, if you don't even know what a J1 is, the J1 visa is if you are a student, then you are allowed to go and work and live in America for around 90 days. I would highly recommend, if you're in college and you haven't done a J1 yet, I would highly recommend doing it just because it is such a good opportunity. And if you do have that free summer, you don't have many trips booked or you don't have any concerts on, I would just personally, I feel like it's so good. If you're someone that is sick of Ireland, I don't know, getting the chance to go to America last year and seeing how actually big the world is and how Ireland is actually so tiny, it was just an amazing opportunity. It's also a great way to get international experience outside of Ireland. I feel like it's just good to have on the CV. It's good to tell people that you've traveled the world and that Ireland isn't the only place you've been to. There is two types of J1s that you can go on. The one that I'm going to be talking about today is the J1 where you go and you live and work in a city and you get the opportunity to work in places like Chicago, New York and Boston. But the other J1 you can go on is a J1 camp visa. So this is basically where you go and you work in a camp for the summer, and it's good for people that want that camp lifestyle for the summer. You don't have to be a student to be able to go on that visa. You can do and work over in a camp anytime in your life. I feel like I definitely, now that I'm not a student, I definitely want to do the J1 camp visa at some point. It's also a lot less expensive than the actual J1 visa. The camp visa is only $400. But yeah, the one I'm going to be talking about today is the one where you get to go work in a city, because that is the one I did last year. Okay, so the first tip and advice I'm going to be discussing is picking your location for your J1. Picking where you want to go for your J1 is really important because it's the place you're going to be staying for the whole summer. You want to go to a place that you're going to be interested in traveling to, that has a lot of things to do in that city. And I might be a bit biased here, but I went to Chicago last year and I thought it was such a good experience for the J1. Obviously it has the big city, but then it also has beaches as well. So you're getting both of that experiences where some days you can go and you can go to the beach, sit by the beach for a few hours, and then other days you can also go and explore the city. It was also just so big, and there's so much to do in Chicago. You can go to the Bean, you can go to Wrigley, go see baseball games. There's so many Irish nights out over in Chicago. Chicago was so popular last year. The amount of Irish in the Irish bars was insane. So then another location where you can go in your J1 is San Diego. I traveled to San Diego. San Diego is also a very popular place that people go to, but we didn't get the chance to be able to go there because we weren't able to find a job. But San Diego, I don't know if I would have loved it over there for a J1 staying there for the whole summer, because San Diego is like Spain in a way where it's just constantly sunny, and the only main thing you can do there is go to the beach. Obviously there probably is other things you can do. I wasn't there for a long period of time. I was only there for a few days, but there didn't really seem much to be able to do in the city. So if you do want that summer where you're basically just living on the beach, you can go on hiking trails, you want to go see the seals. If you want a summer like that, then maybe I would recommend San Diego. The next place that people go to is New York. If you want to go and explore a big city, then I feel like New York is definitely for you. I feel like it is a bit expensive though. That's the only thing I've heard about it. But yeah, New York is another place that people go to, and Boston as well. Yeah, so there's just some of the places that I've heard about where people go on their J1s. I feel like it's always good to have options on where you want to go, because my group originally wanted to go to San Diego, but then when we couldn't find a job, we decided that we were going to go to Chicago. So it definitely is good to have options just in case you're not able to go to the place that you originally wanted to go to. Once you have where you want to go for your J1, the next thing you want to do is pick your sponsor. And a J1 sponsor is basically, they don't help you with finding accommodation or finding a job. Some do help you finding a job, that you can pay extra to help you find a job. But the main thing that your sponsor does is they're basically a middleman between you and the actual sponsor, which is IENA. They basically just help you to keep up to date with your documents, and just help you with the whole embassy process, the whole DS 160 process. They just help you in things like that. The sponsor that I went to was They were interesting, let me just say the least. If you live in a place that starts with May and ends in Newt, okay, and there is a J1 company in that location, I personally would not go with them. Personally, they were literally no help whatsoever. Like, it felt like they had no idea what they were actually doing. They gave us like a job cheat sheet to help us like find jobs, but a lot of them actually on this sheet, like, they were either places that weren't accepting J1s anymore, or that they were old companies that didn't even exist. Like, it was definitely an old sheet that had just been passed down throughout the years and hasn't been updated. They also were like promoting J1s to people in like May or June, which is like just desperate for money, because a J1 takes like a 1 or 2 month process to kind of get everything, get your job, find your location, get your visa sorted, fill out all your documents. To be promoting a J1 to people in May or June, that's just not realistic, because everyone's going at the start of May. So like by the time you get there, you won't be actually there until August, and everyone will be gone home. The only good sponsor that I've heard people have good experience with is Usit, and they do a lot of the stuff for you. They kind of help you out with a lot of the documents. They do a lot of the document stuff for you, which is very good. If I was to do another J1, I definitely would go with Usit and not with this fucking company that I went with before. Usit is also a good company, because last summer people that went with Usit were able to, they basically were being paid to make TikToks. Like, they had this like program where like if you made like over a minute voiceover TikToks, you would then get paid for that TikTok. So that is very good in the sense where you can just be paid to like show your experience on the J1, and all you have to do is tag Usit and get a check. I think that's really good. A J1 sponsor companies are really expensive. Like, they're like €900. Some are like 1,200. They can be very expensive. So it's very important to pick a sponsor that has good reviews and is a trusted sponsor that everyone goes with. So my next tip for people going on a J1 this summer is make sure you have a good group of people going with you. The people that you go on your J1 with is extremely important, because you're going to be with them 24/7 for basically the next 2 or 3 months. The planning process for the J1 can be very stressful. So if you have a good group that's quick at making decisions, is able to communicate with each other, and is just kind of on the same page when it comes to like where you want to stay, kind of where you want to travel afterwards, the things that you'd want to do during the J1, like as long as you kind of find a group that is on the same page with everything like that. Because like if you have one person that wants to stay in like a 5-star luxury Airbnb, when like people like me that had to go on a budget for the J1 last year, like just things like that, they're not going to work. So yeah, it's good to go with like kind of friends that you've gone on holidays with before, and that there hasn't been any issues with them before, and it's just good to kind of go with people that you're comfortable with. Okay, sorry, I need to change location there because I was sick of sitting on the floor. So yeah, basically what I was saying is that if you are a group of 2 going on a J1 and you don't have other people that you're going with, or if you're a group of 4 that need 2 extra people to be able to pay rent for an accommodation, then definitely the best way to go about is finding people on Facebook group chats. My group actually ended up having to do this because we originally had a group of 6, but then we had a group of 4, so we needed to find 2 more people in order to pay for the accommodation. So we ended up finding 2 lads off Facebook, and they were the nicest people ever. We had such a good time staying with them on our J1. So definitely don't be scared if you are a group of 2 and you're looking to find a group of people. Like, there definitely are nice people out there, and as long as you just do kind of research behind the people that you're taking on, just maybe do like an initial call with them just to get a feel for their personality. As long as you've looked into them, then you don't have anything to worry about. So my next piece of advice is finding a job for your J1. So this is probably the hardest whole process of the J1. Like, finding a job was so difficult, and I feel like I'm not even the best person to give advice, but the main thing I have to say about finding a job is literally start applying as soon as possible. Like, if you think that you want to do J1 in maybe November, December time, and you're sure you want to do a J1, I would start applying then, like as soon as possible, because I've heard now that there's people going on a J1 this year, they're struggling to find jobs by like February, March time, and they're being told that like places, that companies, they don't have any more J1 slots, or they're completely full. So like literally just start applying for the job as soon as possible. There's so many people like applying for jobs, but there's actually like so many limited places of companies actually taking on J1ers. Like, companies might not take on J1ers at all, or companies may have had a bad experience with J1ers in the past and now they don't take on J1ers now. Like, literally just start applying as soon as possible, because there are going to be a load of people applying for jobs. And yeah, I didn't secure my job until like late March, which was very late, I thought anyway. And like the only way I found this job, and probably the best way, the only piece of advice that I can give about finding a job is find someone that did a J1 before and find out where they worked and see if there's any way that you can get the employer's email, or if you're able to ask that person to ask their employer if they're hiring again for J1ers this summer. Like basically knowing someone that did a J1 last year is your best way of finding a job. A lot of people are actually contacting me in my group from last year asking to work at the same place that I worked at, because then they can't find a job this year because it's so difficult to find jobs. So like definitely just know someone. Like that is honestly the best advice I can give. It's just so hard. Like so many places in America just either don't accept J1s, or they don't even know what the J1 program is. Some people may get lucky. Like 2 of my friends in my group actually did end up finding a job at Nando's, and they got that themselves. They looked at the job cheat sheet and they were able to secure a job at Nando's. So there are stories where people do get lucky and they are able to find a job, but I've heard more people finding a job because they knew someone that worked there as to someone that just found the job by interviewing. If you don't know someone that did a J1 last year, the only other piece of advice I can give you is to join WhatsApp groups to see like if there's any places that are hiring or any places doing cash jobs. A lot of people in the WhatsApp groups would put in saying that people were doing cash jobs at like the pier. So like things like that. I would apply to like the baseball stadiums if you're going to Chicago, to places like Wrigley. I ended up actually being able to do a few shifts in Wrigley, and they accept. That was the only place that I went to that I saw took on loads of J1ers. Like there was probably, I want to say like over like 60 to 100 J1ers working there. Like Wrigley definitely, like, because there's so many different stalls in the baseball stadium, and there was like 3 or 4 J1ers in each stall. So if you're going to Chicago, Wrigley is definitely one place I would apply to if you're looking for a job. Because like since I was in my final year last year, I just kind of took the job that I was given because I didn't want the stress of doing my final year project and also trying to find a job. So I did settle for the job that I was given because I just needed a job. But I definitely would, if you're start applying early, just apply as much as you can. Know people that have done the J1 before, and fingers crossed you will find something. So the next piece of advice I'm going to be talking about is kind of finding accommodation. Once you found your job, it's best to then secure accommodation. And the best way I think to go about finding accommodation is definitely through Airbnb, because in Chicago there was loads of different Airbnbs to choose from. It also is good to go with Airbnb because then you can kind of pick a location that best suits your group. I feel like it's good to just find a location that's kind of close to everyone's jobs. It's kind of close to the city and close to public transport, so you're able to get in and out of places quickly. It's best to go with an accommodation that's safe. And then yeah, it's also good then to find a place that is like close to like the places where you're going to be going out a lot. So if you're like wanting to go out on the Irish J1 nights a lot, it's best to find an accommodation that's kind of close to those places, because Ubers can get expensive if you're taking Ubers to and from these places every single night. It's so easy for like Airbnbs to just go super quickly. When my group was looking for an Airbnb, we would like pick one that we would like, but then we would take a few days to decide if we actually wanted to stay there, and by the time we had decided, that Airbnb would actually be gone. So yeah, it's best to just find an Airbnb as soon as possible and quickly as possible, and communicate with your group on if they want to stay there or not. Airbnbs can be expensive, but our Airbnb actually allowed us to pay in installments, so it kind of allowed us for not to actually have to pay for the whole accommodation price all in one go. So it is good for things like that. Another place where people do stay on their J1 is J1 Accom, and I didn't personally stay here, but I did have friends that stayed over there, and I went over there a few times for pranks, so I definitely kind of know what the living space is like. It's very similar to like student accommodation, where you kind of have like your own room, and then you have like a shared kitchen and then a shared living space. It definitely has its pros and cons. The kind of pros with J1 Accom, like if you are kind of looking to be in a building with like it's basically it's like a 13-story building with basically loads of J1ers that are also on their J1. So if you're looking for kind of a base place where to have like pranks and you want to like meet new people that are on the J1, definitely J1 Accom is a good place to go. If you're like a group of 2 going on a J1 and you don't want to stay with people in an Airbnb and you don't want to find them on Facebook, you can just go to J1 Accom and be put in a room with other people going on a J1. So it's good in the sense where like you're definitely going to be with Irish people. It's also very safe. Like the security there is very good. They don't just let anyone walk in as they please. Like when I would go over to J1 Accom, I would have to hand my ID to people at the front desk, and I would have to be accompanied by someone actually staying there. Yeah, they also have like a communal space clubs on the top floor. They also have like a gym, which is very good. It's also like if you're going on the J1 Irish Nights Out, it is so easy to just find someone that to go home with, because literally everyone's going home to J1 Accom. Kind of cons with living in J1 Accom is that it is just a very basic living space. Basically the rooms are like one big room split into two by a big massive wall. And like if you don't have a room with the window, your room is basically in darkness. And you also have to buy your own lamps, you have to buy your own pots and pans, and you also have to get rid of them by the end of your J1, and if you don't, you're charged for it, which is a bit stupid, I think. There's also like 3 hoovers in the whole buildings. If you kind of want to hoover your main area, you could be waiting ages just for the hoover. It's also very expensive. Like I think it is like around 2.5 to 3,000 to stay in. It's also not good for like groups of like 5 or 7, because a lot of the rooms over there only kind of suited 4 people. So say you're a group of like 5 and the rooms only fit 4, and you're not comfortable with kind of sharing with randomers, then it's not really good for you in like that if you don't want to be split up from your group. So yeah, J1 Accom is good for kind of people if you want to meet other J1ers, if you're a social butterfly and you love talking to other people, it's definitely good to go there. But if you're kind of wanting to just stick with your group and have your own kind of base, Airbnb is definitely the way to go. So my next piece of advice is going to be kind of keeping up to date with the documents and the embassy appointment. Now, I can't really go into full detail about everything to do with the documents because there was so much documents I had to do. But the main document that is just 100% important is your DS 2019. It's basically like your ID for America. Like you wouldn't be going up and bringing it into the bars and saying here's my ID, but like you just need it for like so many things. Like you need it for your embassy appointment, you need it for when you're entering America, you need it when you're trying to get your social security number. Your DS 2019 is just the main form you have to worry about. Obviously other forms are important, but like the DS 2019 is the one you actively actually use before and while you're in America. I would also then recommend just keeping all your kind of J1 documents in a folder. It's just good to keep everything organized. So yeah, once you fill out your kind of first set of information, you have your DS 2019, then you have to fill out this basically long, it's like this really long form where they ask you like so many questions, like have you been to America before, what's your like social media handles, like things like that. And this is called the DS 160, and this is like, it's basically just like a big questionnaire about yourself and kind of quizzing you on, are you a good fit for the J1 program? Once you have this done, then you have your embassy appointment, and there is a few things you have to bring to the embassy. I'm going to put on the screen here all the documents you need to bring for the embassy appointment. This is why just everything in this whole process, it's good to get it done as soon as possible, because for the embassy appointment, they actually end up taking your passport for like 5 or 10 days. So if you have like your flight booked for like the start of May and you want to do your embassy for like the end of April, but they don't have like enough appointments and they only have appointments till May, then you won't be able to go because you don't have your passport. So yeah, the main things you need for the appointment is the passport photo, the DS 2019 and the DS 160 page. And for the passport photo, I would recommend getting it done in those little photo booths that you see in like shopping centers. I went to a pharmacy to get my photo done, and then when I actually went to the actual embassy appointment, they told me that my picture wasn't the right size, so I had to get my photo retaken in one of those little photo booths in the actual embassy room. So it's best to just kind of get it done in those little things than going to a pharmacy, because a pharmacy just take on a digital camera and they don't have the actual right size that you need for the embassy appointment. The whole embassy appointment, like, it can seem very scary. Like, I didn't really know what to expect before going to my one, but like, it actually is not. Like, you basically set up your appointment time and you wait outside for a bit, and then you kind of go into this, like, it's almost like airport security kind of area where you can't bring your phone in. You just go in with your documents and that's it. And then once you're in the actual embassy room, you wait in one line to get your passport picture looked at and your passport, and then you go into another line, which then you wait to talk to a American embassy person. And like, it's not even like, some people say it's like an interview, but it's not even an interview. Like, the questions they asked me is just like, why are you going on the J1? Where are you going? Where are you working? Like, I think it only lasted like less than a few seconds, and then he was like, stamp approved. It's not that scary. Yeah, it was like around 2 hours I was there, so it is like kind of long, but like once you get it done over with, you're all good to go. Okay, that is the end of part 1. I did not expect to yap on this video for so long, so I'm going to split it into 2 parts. But in the next part, I'm going to be discussing kind of things to do when you first get to America, such as like setting up your American phone, your bank account, and trying to get your SSN number. Also then recommendations for Chicago and places where I traveled afterwards. And I'm also going to be breaking down the cost of my whole entire J1. So if you want to see that, stick out for part 2. I'm gonna try post it maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll see. But if you enjoyed part 1, let me know. Please like and subscribe if you did like it, or if it helped you in any way, please let me know. I'm just kind of making this because I knew I definitely would have liked it last year if someone had made a video like this. So yeah, comment down below where you're going on a J1, or if you're going on a J1, or if this helped at all. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in part 2. Bye.